So it has been a crazy year. We went too long without this, and it's all my fault, and I'm so sorry, but we're going to finish this book by the end of the year. So, Charlotte's Web by E.B. White. We left off by Charlotte trying to save Wilbur by um, uh, putting words in her web. Remember, she had her web up in the corner, and she was putting words in there. She put words like terrific. All right, let me find our page. Oh, maybe it's too far. Here we go. All right, so we are on chapter 7. It's called A Meeting. One evening, a few days after the writing had appeared in Charlotte's Web, the spider called a meeting of all the animals in the barn cellar. I shall begin by calling the roll. Wilbur? Here, said the pig. Gander? Here, 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 said the gander. Remember, he says things in three words. You sound like 3 ganders, muttered Charlotte. Why can't you just say here? Why do you have to repeat everything? It's my idiosyncrasy, replied the gander. Goose? Said Charlotte. Here, 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 said the goose. Charlotte glared at her. Goslings, 1 through 7? Beep, 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 said the goslings. This is getting to be quite a meeting, said Charlotte. Anybody would think that we had 3 ganders, 3 goslings, and 3 ganders, 3 geese, and 21 goslings. Sheep, he, answered the sheep all together. Lambs, he, answered the lambs all together. Templeton? No answer. Templeton? No answer. Well, we're all here except the rat, said Charlotte. I guess we can proceed without him. Now, all of you must have noticed what's been going on around here for the last few days. The message I wrote in my web praising Wilbur has been received. The Zuckermans have fallen for it. So has everybody else. Zuckerman thinks Wilbur is an unusual pig, and therefore he won't want to kill him and eat him. I dare say my trick will work and Wilbur's life can be saved. Hooray! Cried everybody. Thank you very much, said Charlotte. Now I called this meeting in order to get suggestions. I need new ideas for the web. People are already getting sick of reading the words some pig, remember? If anybody can think of another message or remark, I'll be glad to weave it into the web. Any suggestions for a new slogan? How about Pig Supreme? Asked one of the lambs. No good, said Charlotte. It sounds like a rich dessert. How about terrific, terrific, terrific? Said the goose. Cut that down to 1 terrific and it will do very nicely, said Charlotte. I think terrific might impress Zuckerman. But Charlotte, said Wilbur, I'm not terrific. That doesn't make a particle of difference, replied Charlotte. Not a particle. People believe almost anything they see in print. Does anybody here know how to spell terrific? I think, said the gander, it's T-double-E-double-R-double-I-double-F-double-I-double-C-C-C-C. What kind of an acrobat do you think I am? Said Charlotte in disgust. I would have to have St. Vitus's dance to weave a word like that into my web. Sorry, said the gander. Then the oldest sheep spoke up. I agree that there should be something new written in the web if Wilbur's life is to be saved. And if Charlotte needs help in finding words, I think she can get it from our friend Templeton. The rat visits the dump regularly and has access to old magazines. He can tear out bits of advertisements and bring them up here to the barn cellar so that Charlotte can have something good to copy. Good idea, said Charlotte. But I'm not sure Templeton will be willing to help. You know, he is always looking out for himself, never thinking of the other fellow. I bet I can get him to help, said the old sheep. I'll appeal to his baser instincts, of which he has plenty. Here he comes now. Everybody keep quiet while I put the matter up to him. The rat entered the barn the way he always did, creeping along close to the wall. What's up? He asked, seeing the animals assembled. We're holding a directors' meeting, replied the old sheep. Well, break it up, said Templeton. Meetings bore me. and the rat began to climb a rope that hung against the wall. "Look," said the old sheep, "next time you go to the dump, Templeton, bring back a clipping from the magazine. Charlotte needs new ideas so she can write messages in her web and save Wilbur's life." "Let him die," said the rat. "I should worry." "You'll worry all right when the next winter comes," said the sheep. "You'll worry all right when 0 morning next January, when Wilbur is dead and nobody comes down here with a nice pail of warm slops to pour over the trough. Wilbur's leftover food is your chief source of supply, Templeton. You know that. Wilbur's food is your food. Therefore, Wilbur's destiny and your destiny are closely linked. If Wilbur is killed and his trough stands empty day after day, you'll grow so thin we can look right through your stomach and see objects on the other side." Templeton's whiskers quivered. "Maybe you're right," he said gruffly. "I'm making a trip to the dump tomorrow afternoon. I'll bring back a magazine clipping if I can find one." "Thanks," said Charlotte. "The meeting is now adjourned. I have a busy evening ahead of me. I've got to tear my web apart and write terrific." Wilbur blushed. "But I'm not terrific, Charlotte. I'm just about average for a pig." "You're terrific as far as I'm concerned," replied Charlotte sweetly. "And that's what counts. You're my best friend, and I think you're sensational. Now stop arguing and get some sleep." So that's the end of chapter 7. Chapter 8 is called Good Progress. Actually, I think it's chapter 13. Good progress. Far into the night, while the other creatures slept, Charlotte worked on her web. First, she ripped out a few of the orb lines near the center. She left radial lines alone, as they were needed for support. As she worked, her 8 legs were a great help to her. So were her teeth. She loved to weave, and she was an expert at it. When she was finished ripping things out, her web looked something like this. A spider can produce several kinds of thread. She uses a dry, tough thread for foundation lines, and she uses a sticky thread for snare lines, the ones that catch and hold insects. Charlotte decided to use her dry thread for writing the new message. "If I write the word terrific with sticky thread," she thought, "every bug that comes along will get stuck in it and spoil the effect." Now let's see. The first letter is T. Charlotte climbed to a point at the top left-hand side of the web, swinging her spinnerets into position. She attached her thread and then dropped down. She dropped her spinning tubes, went into action, and she let out thread. At the bottom, she attached the thread. This formed the upright part of the letter T. Charlotte was not satisfied, however. She climbed up and made another attachment, right next to the first. Then she carried the line down so that she had a double line instead of a single line. "It will show up better if I make the whole thing with double lines." She climbed back up, moved over about an inch to the left, touched her spinnerets to the web, and carried the line across to the right, forming the top of the T. She repeated this, making it double. Her 8 legs were very busy. Now for E. Charlotte got so interested in her work, she began to talk to herself as though to cheer herself on. If you had been sitting quietly in the barn cellar that evening, you would have heard something like this. "And now for the R. Up we go. Attach. Descend. Pay out line. Whoa. Attach. Good. Up you go. Repeat. Attach. Descend. Pay out line. Whoa, girl. Steady now. Attach. Climb. Attach. Over to the right. Pay out line. Attach. Now right and down and swing that loop around and around. Now on to the left. Easy. Keep those lines together. Pay outline. Whoa. Attach. Ascend. Repeat. Good girl." And so, talking to herself, the spider worked at her difficult task. When it was completed, she felt hungry. She ate a small bug that she had been saving. Then she slept. Next morning, Wilbur arose and stood beneath the web. He breathed the morning air into his lungs. Drops of dew catching the sun made the web stand out clearly. When Lurvy arrived with breakfast, there was a handsome pig, and over him, woven neatly in block letters, was the word terrific. Another miracle. Lurvy rushed and called Mr. Zuckerman. Mr. Zuckerman rushed and called Mrs. Zuckerman. Mrs. Zuckerman ran to the phone and called the Arables. The Arables climbed into their truck and hurried over. Everybody stood at the pig pen and stared at the web and read the word over and over again while Wilbur, who really felt terrific, stood quietly, swelling out his chest and swinging his snout from side to side. Terrific, breathed Zuckerman in a joyful admiration. Edith, you better phone the reporter on Weekly Chronicle and tell him what happened. He will want to know about this, and he may want to bring a photographer. There isn't a pig in the whole state that is as terrific as our pig. The news spread. People who had journeyed to see Wilbur when he was some pig came back again to see him now that he was terrific. That afternoon, when Mr. Zuckerman went to milk the cows and clean out the tie-ups, he was still thinking about a wondrous pig he owned. Lurvy, he called, there is to be no more cow manure thrown down into that pig pen. I have a terrific pig. I want that pig to have a clean, bright straw every day for his bedding. Understand? Yes, sir, said Lurvy. Furthermore, said Mr. Zuckerman, I want you to start building a crate for Wilbur. I have decided to take the pig to the county fair on September 6th. Make the crate large with paint and paint it green with gold letters. What will the letters say? Asked Lurvy. They should say Zuckerman's famous pig. Lurvy picked up a pitchfork and walked away to get some clean straw. Having such an important pig was going to mean plenty of extra work. He could see that. Below the apple orchard, at the end of the path, was the dump where Mr. Zuckerman threw all sorts of trash and stuff that nobody wanted anymore. Here, in a small clearing hidden by young alders and wild raspberry bushes, was an astonishing pile of old bottles and empty tin cans and dirty rags and bits of metal and broken bottles and broken hinges and broken springs and dead batteries and last month's magazines and old discarded dish mops and tattered overalls and rusty spikes and leaky pails and forgotten stoppers and useless junk of all kinds, including a wrong-sized crank for a broken ice cream freezer. Templeton knew the dump and liked it. There were good hiding places there, excellent cover for a rat, and there was usually a tin can with food still clinging to the inside. Templeton was down there now, rummaging around. When he had returned to the barn, he carried in his mouth an advertisement he had found from a crumpled magazine. How's this? He asked, showing the ad to Charlotte. It says crunchy, crunchy would be a good word to write. Oh, it says crunchy. Crunchy would be a good word to write in your web. Just the wrong idea, replied Charlotte. It couldn't be worse. We don't want Zuckerman to think Wilbur is crunchy. He might start thinking about crisp. Crunchy bacon and tasty ham. That would put ideas into his head. We must advertise Wilbur's noble qualities, not his tastiness. Go get another word, please, Templeton. The rat looked disgusted, but he sneaked away to the dump and was back with a strip of cotton cloth. How's this? He asked. It's a label off of a shirt. Charlotte examined the label. It said, pre-shrunk. I'm sorry, Templeton, she said, but pre-shrunk is out of the question. We want Zuckerman to think that Wilbur is nicely filled out, not all shrunk up. I'll have to ask you to try again. What do you think I am, a messenger boy? Grumbled the rat. I'm not going to spend all my time chasing down to the dump after advertising material. Just once more, please, said Charlotte. I'll tell you what I'll do, said Templeton. I know where there's a package of soap flakes in the woodshed. It has writing on it. I'll bring you a piece of the package. He climbed the rope that hung on the wall and disappeared through a hole in the ceiling. When he came back, he had a strip of blue and white cardboard in his teeth. There, he said triumphantly. How's that? Charlotte read the word. With new radiant action. What does it mean? Asked Charlotte, who had never used any soap flakes before in her life. How should I know? Said Templeton. You asked for words. I brought them. I suppose the next thing you'll want me to do is fetch. To fetch is a dictionary. Together they studied the soap ad. With new radiant action, repeated Charlotte slowly. Wilbur! Wilbur, who was asleep in the straw, jumped up. Run around, commanded Charlotte. I want to see you in action, to see if you are radiant. Wilbur raced to the end of his yard. Now back again. Faster, said Charlotte. Wilbur galloped back. His skin shone. His tail had a fine, tight curl in it. Jump into the air, cried Charlotte. Wilbur jumped as high as he could. Keep your knees out straight and touch the ground with your ears, called Charlotte. Wilbur obeyed. Do a backflip with a half twist in it, cried Charlotte. Wilbur went over backwards, writhing and twisting as he went. Okay, Wilbur, said Charlotte. You can go back to sleep. Okay, Templeton. The so bad will do, I guess. I'm not sure Wilbur's action is exactly radiant, but it's interesting. Actually, said Wilbur, I feel radiant. Do you? Said Charlotte, looking at him with affection. Well, you're a good little pig, and radiant you shall be. I'm in this thing pretty deep now, and might as well go to the limit. Tired from his romp, Wilbur lay down in the clean straw. He closed his eyes. The straw seemed scratchy, not as comfortable as cow manure, which was always delightfully soft to lay in. So he pushed the straw to one side and stretched out in the manure. Wilbur sighed. It had been a busy day, his first day of being terrific. Dozens of people had visited his yard during the afternoon, and he had had to stand and pose, looking as terrific as he could. Now he was tired. Fern had arrived and seated herself quietly on her stool in the corner. Tell me a story, Charlotte, said Wilbur, as he lay waiting for sleep to come. Tell me a story. So Charlotte, although she too was tired, did what Wilbur wanted. Once upon a time, she began, I had a beautiful cousin who managed to build her web across a small stream. One day, a tiny fish leaped into the air and got tangled in the web. My cousin was very much surprised, of course. The fish was thrashing wildly. My cousin hardly dared tackle it, but she did. She swooped down and threw great masses of wrapping material around the fish and fought bravely to capture it. Did she succeed? Asked Wilbur. It was a never-to-be-forgotten battle, said Charlotte. There was a fish caught by only one fin and its tail wildly thrashing and shining in the sun. There was the web snagging dangerously under the weight of the fish. How much did the fish weigh? Asked Wilbur eagerly. I don't know, said Charlotte. There's my cousin slipping in, dodging out, beaten mercilessly over the head by the wildly thrashing fish, dancing in, dancing out, throwing her threads and fighting hard. First she threw a left round the tail. The fish lashed back. Then a left to the tail and a right to the midsection. The fish lashed back. Then she dodged to one side and threw a right and another right to the fin, and the hard left to the head while the web swayed and stretched. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing, said Charlotte. The fish lost the fight. My cousin wrapped it up so tight it couldn't budge. Then what happened? Asked Wilbur. Nothing, said Charlotte. My cousin kept the fish for a while, and then when she got good and ready, she ate it. Tell me another story, begged Wilbur. So Charlotte told him about another cousin of hers who was an aeronaut. What is an aeronaut? Asked Wilbur. A balloonist, said Charlotte. My cousin used to stand on her head and let out enough thread to form a balloon. Then she'd let go and be lifted into the air and carried upward into the warm wind. Is that true? Asked Wilbur. Or are you just making it up? It's true, replied Charlotte. I have some very remarkable cousins. And now, Wilbur, it's time you went to sleep. Sing something, begged Wilbur, closing his eyes. So Charlotte sang a lullaby, while crickets chirped in the grass and the barn grew dark. This was the song she sang. Sleep, sleep, my love, my only, deep, deep in the dung and the dark. Be not afraid, and be not lonely. This is the hour when frogs and thrushes praise the world from the woods and the rushes. Rest from care, my one and only, deep in the dung and the dark. But Wilbur was already asleep. When the song ended, Fern got up and went home. That's the end of that chapter.